Most people, when you ask them about money, are going to think about exterior finance. Exterior finance, you can think of this as a triangle. Exterior finance is the nuts and bolts of money. It's the mechanics. It's how money works. And it's important. But there is another piece here. There's also interior finance. And interior finance is inside of us. So interior finance, this is how we relate to money. Okay, now both are important, but exterior finance needs to sit on top of the solid foundation of interior finance. So interior finance is how we relate with money and how we relate to our money story. Our money story is kind of a collection of beliefs we have about money that forms a narrative. And we've got a relationship with this money story. And if you didn't know you had a relationship with this money story, then it's probably not a good relationship with this money story. But we've all got a relationship with money. We all relate to money somehow. And it's all based on everything that we've been through. It's been based on our experiences. And it wants what's best for us. All these beliefs that we have, all these schemas that we have, these money scripts that we've had, and our money story, it has our best interest in mind. It wants what's best for us. Let's give you an example. So you've got a particular life journey, and you've had this path that you've been on, whatever it looks like. And these lesser gray lines, these are paths that aren't available to you because you can't change the past. But in whatever life journey you've had, there have been some undesirable things that have happened. And when that happens, your money story rewires your brain. And it says, that was really stressful. I did not like that. I can't go through that again. We can't go through that again. And so it writes a little rule, and that rule might be called a money script. That's fine. That's good. Now remember, we write most of these when we're children. So we probably aren't going to get these rules correct because we're not masters of logic when we're children. But even if we were, we only have a sample size of 1. So they're written with our best interest in mind. They're probably going to be a little bit wrong, but they stay with us. That's when it gets problematic, is when this same rule that your money story wrote for you back when something bad happened, if that stays with you into your adult years, you're operating on an old, outdated rule. All right, let me say that again. If you don't check your money beliefs, then it's possible that you have beliefs right now that are completely outdated. They made sense when those were written for you, but they don't make sense anymore. And money itself is nothing but a thing. We give meaning to money, and it's based on everything that we've seen, based on everything that we've been through. Our money story tells us what money means. Again, based on everything that you've seen and experienced and been through. Now, some people will say that money means security. That another person, that maybe even that person's spouse, might say money means freedom. Now, these are almost two different ends of the spectrum. For the person who thinks money means security, it's about not being harmed. It's about being safe. For the person to whom money means freedom, it means being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Now, those are two very different viewpoints, but there's a ton of different ways money can speak to us. Meanings that we can assign money. For others, money is love. That's how people showed love. For some people, it's power or fear or envy. So we've all got these money stories that are telling us what money means, but it's completely made up. We give money meaning. And we're not likely to interpret it in the most positive light because we've got this negativity bias. And the negativity bias says that we're going to recognize the bad more than we're going to recognize the good. We're going to remember the bad more than we're going to remember the good. The bad is going to be with us longer than the good will be. In essence, we are hardwired to take our lives for granted. So we're most likely to negatively interpret the things that happen to us. So how can we investigate our money story, our money beliefs, our money scripts? How can we figure out what our narrative is, the story that we're telling ourselves? We can go back to our ABCs. This is a model developed by Albert Ellis a number of years ago, so a number of decades ago. And it basically says the way that our mind works is it follows this ABC pattern. Now, when you first start using this, the first thing that you're going to notice is the C, and that stands for the consequence. So I did something or I felt something. There's an emotional or a behavioral consequence that happens here. Okay, so either I felt something, I felt angry, I felt envious, I felt sad, or I did something, I raised my voice, I stormed off, I punched a wall, whatever. Okay, so, and there's insights each step of the way. So starting with C, if you can just become more aware of what you're feeling and more aware of what you're doing, that's pretty good insights for most people. But once you recognize what the consequence was, you can now ask yourself, what happened just before that? That's the adversity, or you might call it an activating event. So something happened, it's your trigger. So you can ask yourself, what happened just before I felt that? Or what happened just before I did that? And if you just stop at this stage of the game, you're going to get more insights, not only into what you're feeling and doing from the C, but also into what your triggers are, which is the A. But now comes the fun part, is to think about what's in between here, because it feels like something happens that made me feel something. It feels like something happened that made me do something. That's our perception. That's what it feels like experientially, but it is an illusion. Because in reality, there's a B, a belief that sits in between there. And that B is the belief. When it's about money, you can call that your money script. This could be the money story. These are our narratives. It's the story we tell ourselves. It's the old Epictetus Stoicism saying that we're not disturbed by things, the adverse event. We're disturbed by our interpretation of those things, which is this belief. So the reality then is that there's some adversity, something happens, and then we have some feeling about that. We have some belief about the rightness or wrongness of that runs through the filter of our judgments. And then based on our belief about what happened, then we feel something or then we do something. Something happens, then we have some belief about that. And remember, we have a negativity bias, so we're probably more likely to negatively interpret what happened, and then our consequence is going to be driven by that. What we can do, though, is we can investigate that belief. Once we become more aware of it, so one, can we become more aware of our emotional and behavioral consequences? Then can we become more aware of our triggers? Then can we ask ourselves, what is the story that we're telling ourselves? And sometimes that's a little bit embarrassing to see. You're acting on these beliefs, whether you like it or not, subconsciously. So what we're trying to do is bring this into conscious awareness. Sometimes that's a little bit icky. You have to sometimes admit to yourself, oh, that's why I did that? But only by investigating this can you learn the story that you're telling yourself. And then you can start to question it. Is there evidence for this? Is there evidence against this? Is this a helpful belief to have? Is this doing me good? What's the cost of carrying around this belief? And by doing this, we can take this impulse and action that often happen way too close to each other, and we can put some space in between impulse and action. And that's our first step towards living intentionally. You get one life. Live intentionally. Greetings, Derek again. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more, please head to meaning.blog, and there you can learn about all things related to money and mindset and purpose and meaning. And you'll be able to find out how we might be able to work together. You'll find more articles. You'll find links to videos. You'll find online courses, all kinds of things to get you going on your journey towards living more intentionally.